Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 6 of our course, Consumer Mathematics. This is the midpoint of the semester. So at the end of this week, when you're done with submitting everything, then I will grade stuff. And then I will post, in addition to your weekly stuff that I'm going to post, I'm going to post the midterm grades also. So look for that. So just continue to submit everything on time, especially the discussion boards that close at the end of the week. So you want to make sure you get those in. I again want to remind you that you should not be posting your discussion posts all on the same day. Your original post should be done by Thursdays, and then you have until Sunday to do 2 more posts. But please do not continue to post everything on Sunday evening around late at night, because that defeats the purpose of the discussion board. The discussion board is for exchange of the ideas, and when you just do all 3 at the end, basically there is no discussion. So make sure that you spread those out. Nothing is stopping you from doing your original post earlier, or look for other classmates who have posted earlier, and just spreading your 3 posts over the 3 days, or even at least do your original post on one day and your reply post on another day, so that they're not all done on the same day. I also want to go over, before I do the lesson for the day, go over week 5. Week 5 has an additional assignment that the other weeks did not have, and I will post a separate video for how to do that assignment. Even though it's pretty self-explanatory, the directions are right here. Spelled out completely. I need you to read carefully and address every bullet point. Okay. Do not do your own formatting. Do not do something different. Just address the bullets. Okay. That's all I'm going to say in this one. In the different other video, I'm going to go through it and explain it a little bit more. But I want you to know that in addition to your regular homework and to your quiz, you have this assignment, which is 30 points. So make sure that you do it. It is due on Sunday. It closes on Sunday. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this week's stuff, which is tax. Which is percents. And we're gonna keep this week's percent stuff simple. It is chapter 5, section 5.1 and 5.4. We will continue with that chapter next week, section 5.5, okay, which continues the percents a little bit more into next week. But for this week, we are doing chapter 5, sections 1 through 4, which is a basic idea of percents. Okay, what they mean and how to change a fraction to a percent, and a percent to a decimal, and so on and so forth. Basically, move between the 3 things together. So let's do that. Let's go over here to my camera. So basically, percents, as this name would suggest, the word cent means 100. So a percent, if you separate it as 2 words, basically means per 100. Okay, so that's what it is. And per in math is shown with a fraction. Okay, so let me say 2 over 100, that's a percent. That's 2%, because that's 2 per 100 units. Okay, so keep that in mind. Another thing is that the percent symbol comes after the number, not before. Some people put it before for some reason, so make sure that you do it afterwards. So percents, decimals, and fractions are pretty much the same, and I kind of explained this when we did fractions before and decimals before, but you basically move through them from one. We can move from one to another. They show part of a whole. The percents are just special because they show part of 100, as opposed to like out of 5 or out of 10 or whatever, right? So if you have a fraction that has a denominator of 100 is easy because you can just see how many parts of the 100 you have. So for example, if you have 40 over 100, that's 40% because literally it's 40 out of 100. That's easy, okay? If you have 4 out of 100, that's also easy, is 4%, okay? So it gets a little bit trickier though if your fraction doesn't have a denominator of 100, because then you have to change that denominator to be 100 so you can understand how many parts you have. So for example, let's say you have 2 out of 5. And again, I kind of explained this in another video, but as a reminder, yeah, you may not be able to do this in your head, but you can ask yourself, okay, let's talk about equivalent fraction. If I was going to write this as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100, okay, then what would this be? And we talked about this, how to set equivalent fractions and find the missing part in the last lesson. So basically, you do cross multiplication. You multiply the two that are across from each other and divide by the number that's left over. So 2 times 100 is 200. 200 divided by 5 is 40. Okay, so 2/5 is 40%. It doesn't look like it, but 2/5 is really the same thing as what we have here as 40 over 100. And you just saw why. Okay, so let's try another one, another random one. Let's say I had 3/25. Okay, this may not look like a percent, but it is really if we write it as an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 100. Okay, so basically, if what is 3 out of 25? Okay, equal to if that 25 was 100. Okay, so how many parts of 100 is 3 out of 25? 25. So again, we're going to do cross multiplication. We're going to multiply 3 times 100, which is 300, and divide it by 25. Okay, which will give us 12. Now let's see if you guys can do this in your head. So let's do that. Okay, so again, you have, oops, second, let me turn my calculator on. So you multiply the two numbers that are across from each other. So 100 times 3, okay, and then divide that by 25, okay, and you get 12. So 3/25 is 12 out of 100, which means is 12%. Okay, so sometimes that's easy. You can change this into 100, but let's say you had 1/3. There is no number that you multiply 3 by that can get 100, can get you to 100. Okay, 3 doesn't convert to 100. And if you try to do the cross multiplication, so 1 times 100 is 100, and divided by 3, oops, you will get a decimal. Okay, so in that case, your percent has a decimal in it, which kind of can get confusing, but basically 1/3 is the same thing as 33.3%. Oops, I did just what I told you guys not to do. So you notice that sometimes we really can't use that cross multiplication because we don't have a number, our denominator doesn't convert into 100 very easily, okay? What you can do is, instead of cross multiplication, one easy thing is that when you have a fraction that you want to turn into a decimal, regardless of what the bottom is, the easiest way is to just divide the top by the bottom and then multiply by 100. So for example, let's say you had 3/9, okay? Instead of worrying about cross multiplication, just divide 3 by 9. And that gives me 0.3333, and it will continue, okay? It doesn't matter. And then multiply that by 100, okay? Which gives you 33.3. I didn't do this on purpose. It just happened to be the same as the last one, okay? Here's another one. Let's have 5/11, okay? Just completely random stuff so you can see how easy it is. 5 divided by 11, okay? Gives me 0.45. 45, and you see how it gets repeated, right? So basically it's 0.45, and we write that little thing, okay? And then you multiply that by 100, okay? So basically that's 45.45%, okay? So that's how you change a fraction into a percent. Now, a percent, if you have a percent and you want to change it to a decimal, that's much easier. So let's say you had 35%, okay? Technically, all numbers have a decimal at the end of them. We just don't write them if there is no part, right? So basically, to change a percent to a decimal, you're going to take this percent and this decimal point and move it 2 units to the left, okay? So 1, 2, and put a decimal point right there, and then get rid of the percent sign. So 35% is the same thing as 0.35, which is the same thing as 35 over 100 as a fraction, which you can reduce to 7 to 20. And I'm not going to go over simplification for this class. Okay. Here's another one. Let's say, be very careful. Let's say you have 2.5%. Remember, you need to move the decimal point 2 places. So here's 1. But I don't have another decimal place to go. So because I don't, I'm going to put a 0 over here so I can move my decimal 2 places and put the decimal point right there. So 2.5% is the same thing as 0.025. Okay. The opposite is true. When you have a decimal and you want to change it to a percent, you move the decimal point to the right instead. So let's say you had, so I'm going to use this one right here, 0.35, okay? I'm going to move this 1, 2 decimal places to the right, and because it's after the number, it disappears, so I'm left with 35, and that's 35%. That is the same thing. This is the same thing as dividing by 100. This is the same thing as multiplying by 100. So if you don't remember the moving of the decimal, you can always do the division by 100 or multiplication by 100. But this is a very quick way of doing it. So here's another example. So the opposite right here, 0.025. I want to change it to a percent. So I'm going to move the decimal to the right, which is the same thing as multiplying by 100. 1, 2. So it goes in between 2 and 5. The 0 disappears because 0 before a number doesn't count. So 2.5%. Okay. On the homework and quiz, you have a couple of things that may be a little bit confusing for you. So let's try go to one of those, a couple of those. Let me go over here. Give me a second. So right here. So I did this on this is from last semester when somebody got it wrong. So doesn't have a name, so don't worry about it. So let me try this one. It's 5.5% as it says to write it as a mixed number. So basically they want you to change this percent to a fraction. Now some of you might look at this and say, well, this is already in a mixed number, a fraction. Yes, but it's a percent, okay? We want it as a mixed number, not a percent, okay? So when we have something like this, let me write this over here in my paper, 5.5%, okay? So we want to, and by the way, I don't know if you know, I'm gonna say this in here so that just in case you don't know, whenever you look at something on MATLAB, if you have a question, you have a few different things that could help you. You can ask you to help you solve this problem, in which case it prompts you step by step and tells you what to do. Or you can ask it to give you an example, in which case it solves a similar problem with different numbers. Or you can click on this one, in which case it will actually give you an option to either watch a video, go to the textbook for this problem, or send me a question. Okay, those are all options you have if you really get stuck on something. So let's try to view an example. Okay, you notice it does the same thing with just different numbers. Okay, and then as you continue step by step, it just explains it to you. Okay. So in this case, we have 5.5%. So we want to change it into a decimal. So let me go back to my, I'm sorry, to a fraction. So we're going to write this as 5.5 over 100, okay? Which is basically the same thing as 5.5 over 100, okay? And I'm going to go back so you can see how the book is also giving you that information. Watch, okay? We are writing this because a 6 3/4 percent is really out of 100. So that's why we write it over 100. Then, if you continue, then it will tell you what to do. Okay. So remember that fractions really are divisions. So this is really 5.5 divided by 100. Okay. That's what it is. Okay. So, and division by fraction require, if you remember from our fraction unit, require a flip, right? So we really 5.5, we change the division to multiplication, and then we flip this over. This is really 100 over 1. So we flip this over, okay, and do a multiplication. 5.5 as a mixed number is 11 over 2 times 100. So we get 11 over 200, okay, which is what the answer is supposed to be, okay? Let's try a different one, number 13, okay, which gets confusing for people. We have, they want us to write 2.5% as a fraction, okay? So 2.5% is very similar to this one, 2.5 over 100, okay? That's what it is, 2.5 over 100, right? Remember how they're related. First, know that, okay? But in this case, we are trying to write this as a fraction or a mixed number. So the easiest way to do it, okay, is to, again, let me show you an example, how they solve an example, okay? Okay, they change it into a decimal, okay? And then they write it as a fraction, then they simplify it, okay? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to write 2.5% as a decimal, which we did on the last page that I did. So I'm going to move this, let me rewrite it over here. I'm going to move this decimal point 2 places to the right, 1, 2. So this is really 0.025, okay? And I'm going to write this as a fraction. And if you remember 2 lessons ago, number of decimal places that show me the zeros that we have as a fraction. So this is really, we read this as 25 thousandths, right? So this is 25 over 1,000, which if you simplify, you will get, they're both simplifiable by 25, you get 1 over 40, okay? So those might be the only confusing ones. So practice a little bit more. Remember that you have 3 attempts per question for the homework and 3 attempts for the quizzes, not per question, for the quizzes. So really use what you have, the tools you have for the homework, send the questions if you have, watch the videos that they are there so that you can see what's happening. And I just noticed that I never switched my camera for this one when I did this problem. So let me redo this one for you. Sorry, give me a breath. Give me a second. So we're changing. Bear with me. I don't want to redo this video because then it will be very long if I have to redo it. So let me go back. So we're changing 2.5% to a fraction. Okay, so let me go back. Oh, 2.5% to a fraction. Okay, so we're going to write this as a decimal first. And that means that I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. That gives me 0.025. And there are 3 decimal places. So that means that this can be written as 25 over 1,000. The 3 decimal places are the zeros. And then I'm going to simplify 25 over 1,000 by 25. And that gives me 140. Okay. Sorry about that. So back to the course then. So again, you have your regular discussion, okay? Make sure you address every bullet when you do discussion posts. You have your regular homework, which is basics of percents and basically converting between percents, fractions, and decimals. There are videos to watch, my video, the book videos, there's a textbook. Within MATLAB, you have Ask an Instructor, you have videos, you have simulations, you have a lot of tools and resources to help you understand these, okay? before you try the quiz. Then you do the quiz, and then you also make sure that you do the assignments, and the one assignment that extra assignment that we have this week, and you make sure that you address all the points, and you do it in the format that I have requested, and that's 30 points, and I will do a separate video for that.